was!
Don't you dare blame me for this!
I hate you both!
It wasn't a single lie. It was a household conspiracy. My name's Liam. I have been married for nearly 2 decades. I built my construction firm with my hands and a stubborn heart, an old, rusted pickup and a battered hammer that refused to give up. That truck and that hammer taught me the arithmetic of sweat. Measure twice, cut once, never blame the weather. Years of blood and early mornings turned a roadside startup into a business worth millions. No inheritance. No family bailout. Just graft, long nights, and a willingness to be last on the job site. My wife Chloe stayed home to raise our 2 kids. Noah is 17 now, right on the edge of leaving the nest. Ava is 15, all adolescent edges and 2 large opinions. From the outside, we were the portrait everyone wanted to hang on their wall. Autumn leaf peeping trips in Vermont, backyard barbecues, matching pajamas for every holiday. A seemingly perfect frame. Then, about 2 years ago, I started noticing tiny failures in the joints of our life. Little squeaks where there had been seamless motion. Chloe joined a boutique gym down the road. She said it was for her mental health. Reasonable. But soon the changes were more than reasonable. Her clothes sharpened, not cheap but tailored, like she was refitting herself for a different life. She began to wear makeup to run errands, more attention to how she presented herself on the street. The old paint-stained sweatpants that made me laugh at midnight faded from view. In came leggings that clung, tops that announced curves I had loved long ago. I told myself it was rediscovery. I told myself I supported her. I meant it. We had raised 2 kids. Maybe she finally had time to be Chloe again. Around that same time, my younger brother Ethan started popping by more than he had any business doing. He claimed construction reasons. Permits, schedules, those endless little emergencies a site throws up. But most of those things were settled between me and my foreman during daylight hours. Still, Ethan found excuses to come at dusk. Just need to confirm a few things, he'd say, walking through our farmhouse's mudroom like he owned the place. He'd linger with a coffee as if he belonged at our kitchen table. Sometimes I would hear them laughing, warm and too private. Other times, the room between them thickened with silence so dense it sounded like drywall settling. The kids changed, too. Whispered half-sentences that evaporated the moment I crossed the room. When I asked, "What's up?" they'd mutter, "Nothing," or, "Just school." Teenagers. I shrugged. Mood swings. Privacy. Part of growing up. In hindsight, I should have noticed sooner. But I was neck-deep in deals, juggling payroll, sourcing materials in a market that liked to change its mind, hauling deadlines like a trailer behind me. I trusted us. That trust, handing them the key and walking away, was the mistake that cut through everything. 2 weeks before it all collapsed, Noah borrowed my AirPods. He said he'd lost his. I remembered seeing them on his desk, so I went up to fetch them. I knocked a stack of books with my elbow. Pages fanned out like a cracked shutter. Behind them, half-buried and clearly planted to be missed, was an old iPhone. Cracked, weathered, an obsolete model. It should have been ignored. It shouldn't have been powered on. But it felt out of place, so I pressed the sleep button. The screen blinked alive. No passcode. That's when the scaffolding of my life fell away. Hundreds of messages spilled across the screen. Chloe and Ethan, 2 years of flame and smoke, photos and whisper texts and inside jokes that were not for me. Chloe wrote, "He's so wrapped up at work, he never notices when I change my hair." Ethan answered, "That's because he never really looks at you." "I do. I always have." She typed, "It's easier for him to call this a phase than to face it." He answered, "Someday we won't hide. He won't be in the way forever." My thumbs went numb as I scrolled. "Liam is the barrier," Ethan wrote at one point. "He always has been." Images followed, them in my bed, in his apartment, in a back room at a job site. They weren't sneaking. They were careless. They used my spaces like props in a private, cruel play. The worst strike wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the delivery system. The betrayals were being lubricated by the people I had raised. My own kids weren't just aware. They were complicit. Noah was deleting our doorbell camera footage whenever Ethan came over. Whole clips wiped clean as if someone had sanded away proof. Ava ran interference, fabricated schedules, sent me messages with timestamps that lied. Dad, Mom was at practice with me until 6. But the metadata said Chloe had been at Ethan's by 4:30. They had signals, codes, cues. Noah, Dad's pulling in. Ava, stall him. If he calls, say you left a book. My children acted like our home's private security team, defending the very person betraying us. I sat down on Noah's floor and read everything. I took screenshots, not to confront them, but to make archives of the life I hadn't realized I lived. No shaking, no tears. I felt like an observer of someone else's tragedy, a builder watching a bridge crack where he had calibrated every bolt. Eventually, I slid the phone back behind the books, replaced the paperweight that had been moved, and went downstairs. Chloe was at the stove, humming, stirring something that smelled of butter and thyme, as if life remained deliciously ordinary. Ethan leaned back at the table, nursing one of my beers like a man who'd earned a corner of my home. Noah and Ava sat at the table, textbooks open, pretending to study. Perfect. Polite tableau. Hey, honey, Chloe said with a smile like she wanted the world to believe everything was fine. Dinner's almost ready. I kissed her cheek. Sat opposite Ethan. How was your day? He asked, casual as a strip of sawdust. Great, I said. Really great. We ate. We traded small talk, weekend plans, Noah's graduation, Ava's school play. Every laugh felt staged, the kind of line reads you give an audience. Love you, Dad, I heard myself say, knowing it had been hollow for months. That night Chloe moved like a woman returning to old blueprints. She stepped out of the bathroom wearing a silk robe, the kind that takes you back to the tense electricity of early marriage. Damp hair, soft skin, robe loosely tied, as if pressing a rewind button would reset everything. She slid under the covers beside me. Her hand found the familiar map of my chest. I've missed you, she breathed. I did not flinch. I've got a headache, I replied, flat and precise. A headache. That was the first and last gift I offered her that night. A small, cool truth instead of a confession. She curled in like nothing had happened, laying her head on my chest, breathing as if our domestic rhythm had been uninterrupted by adultery. I watched the plaster of the farmhouse ceiling, its hairline cracks, the way light pooled near exposed beams, the familiar surfaces I'd stopped truly seeing. My mind wasn't in the bed. It was running contingency plans like measurements on a blueprint. Mapping routes, thinking of legal angles, visualizing outcomes with the cold efficiency of someone who drafts things to last. I could have called it out then. I could have slammed the covers back, shouted, made a scene so big the kids wouldn't know which story to believe. But would that do anything? She would deny. She would weep. She would play wounded. She would turn the script on me, accuse me of paranoia, instability. I didn't want fireworks. I wanted precision. You don't take down a structure with a sledgehammer if you can take out the cornerstone. I met with 3 lawyers. Each one pitched me a different strategy. I picked the one whose smile looked like a wolf in a tailored suit. Polished, hungry, efficient. In my jurisdiction, adultery still matters in court. It's not a moral footnote. It's a lever. And my evidence was robust. Screenshots, timestamps, GPS tags, message threads. Even better, Ethan had been sloppy. He'd used company vehicles and a work-issued phone to carry on his illicit business. That wasn't only infidelity. That was misuse of company assets. Breach of contract. An opening to dismantle him legally as well as morally. So I began dismantling, quietly, like a man removing nails so the wall doesn't split. I paid off our joint cards and closed them. I redirected my payroll into a fresh account under my name. I told Chloe I was shoring up investments against market volatility. Truth? I funneled funds through a friend's holding company and papered everything until it smelled sterile. I sold our old lake boat and the motorcycle, said we needed to tighten up. Things are volatile, I told her. She smiled, placated. Less to divide when she inevitably moved in with Ethan, I thought. At the company, I staged a transfer of power that looked generous. Promoted my foreman to run daily ops and gave Ethan a glittering title, strategic field manager. That sounded important and did very little. He was comfortable there, supervised but under watch, given busy work that made him feel needed and kept his mistakes logged. I registered a new business entity in another state. A clean name, no trace back to me. An LLC that would hold assets and keep my hands free of obvious fingerprints. At home I kept the mask. Loving husband, present dad, grilling steaks on Sundays, helping with geometry and chemistry flashcards, smiling for photographs like a man performing a ritual. I even got a physical. Full panel. Clean. Small mercies. I kept showing up for the kids, quizzing them before tests, driving to practices, giving them high fives when they passed. If there were Oscars for pretending, I'd have given the acceptance speech and smiled through tears I didn't allow myself to feel. Noah sensed something. "Dad," he asked one evening, eyes narrowed with teenage concern. "You seem off. Are you okay?" I answered steady. "Just work. Trying to stay ahead." He shot Ava a look, a small exchange, a mutual temperature reading. They were starting to wonder what I knew. Let them uneasy. Let them feel the house closing in. The house itself was my ace. A historic farmhouse in the Vermont countryside, stone foundation, wide porches, an old sugar maple shading the yard, valued at roughly $800,000 and fully paid. I found a buyer through a trusted contact. Cash. No fuss. No contingencies. He would close on my timeline. I told Chloe we'd found someone at the country club. We should scale down, simplify, I said, the way a builder recommends demolition when renovation would be more expensive. She blinked like someone listening to an engineer explaining why the beams are compromised. "This house means a lot," she said. "We have memories." Yeah, like inviting betrayal into the hallway and tucking it in like an old blanket, I thought, but I kept my tone neutral. "Sometimes a fresh start is more valuable than nostalgia," I told her. She agreed. We signed preliminary paperwork. She thought we'd be house hunting next week. We weren't. Ethan stopped by the following day with a six-pack and a grin like he owned the history of the place. "You really selling?" he asked. "This house has stories, man." I looked at him without flinching. "Sometimes the past has to stay past if you want any chance at a real future," I said. He slapped my shoulder. Oblivious. 3 weeks. That was my timeline. 3 more weeks of domestic theater and then I'd pull the trigger. Don't pity the kids, I told myself. They weren't innocents. They had known. They had lied and deleted and misdirected a man who put his back into providing them a life. They chose. Let them live with that choice. For a month and a half I lived on 2 tracks. Daytime husband, nighttime architect of escape. I set up an apartment 2,000 miles away. Signed the lease through the new LLC, furnished it clean and spare, no ghosts or family portraits to haunt the walls. The new shop had tools duplicated, a bench that smelled of machine oil and possibility. New bank accounts, a new number, new gym membership. The plan was surgical. When I left, I would leave without flaring alarms. I boxed things slowly, methodically. The items that mattered to me were either shipped ahead or hidden. Photo albums digitized. Originals gone. My grandfather's watch, something I was supposed to wear, had a replica on my wrist and the real one locked in a safe 2,000 miles away. Tools doubled. The company required careful handling. I couldn't simply walk away and expect the records to match the reality I'd manufactured. So I sold 60% of the business to my foreman on paper, a transaction that would close after I left. The man deserved it. He'd put in 15 years beside me. The remaining 40% stayed in my control, but funneled through the LLC. A silent stakeholder, I would still collect, but remain out of the daily orbit. Ethan made mistakes. Drinking on site. Voicemails with slurred words. Missed deadlines. I documented everything. Time-stamped notes, audio snippets, photos. My attorney drafted documents that made him personally liable for significant errors. Small, accumulating liabilities that would compound into a legal trap. I wasn't being petty. I was being methodical. Maybe you'll judge me. Maybe you'll say I'm cruel to the children. I don't care about that verdict. Noah's college fund, held nominally in a custodial account, which he believed was a guarantee, was emptied. He'll discover the hole when payment is due. Ava's car for her 16th birthday? Off the table. The credit cards I've been covering for snacks and rides and clothes. Those protections end the day I walk. They wanted to play adult games. Fine. It's time they experienced adult consequences. Ethan's wife was innocent in all this, sweet, who brought cookies to the crew, wrote thank you notes, believed in her marriage. I put together a package for her, every message, every photo, timestamps, locations. Printed, digital, labeled. She deserved to know what had been in her house. The package would arrive the day after I vanished. My exit was straightforward. A business trip in appearance, early flight, wave goodbye, a backpack, and a deliberate removal of roots. I kissed Chloe, hugged the kids, shook Ethan's hand in the driveway, all the motions of a man who had always been present. My luggage had already been shipped. I would travel light. On the kitchen table, I left a folder. Inside, divorce papers, printouts of messages, financial records showing the moves I'd made, a USB with everything else. No memoir, no heart-rending explanation. Just a yellow post-it. I know everything. Do not contact me. Speak to my attorney. My old phone reset to factory settings and left behind. New numbers already in circulation. By the time they read that note, I'd be airborne and gone. When the flight landed around noon, my phone filled with missed calls, 18 by 12:30. Noah. Chloe. Unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I wanted the silence. By evening, the world had detonated. My attorney called. Chloe had found the folder at 7 a.m., right around her first cup of coffee. She phoned him raw, screaming, sobbing, demanding answers. He stayed measured and said the line we'd rehearsed. Mr. Harris has retained our firm for his divorce. All communication must go through counsel. He will not be engaging directly. Click. By 8 a.m. Ethan had arrived. The house erupted, yelling, doors slamming, neighbors coming out with their robes. Someone phoned the police. Perfect. Noah tried to access his education account and found the balance gone. Ava's school card declined when she tried to buy lunch. Welcome to sudden adulthood, I thought. My old phone blinked with notifications like sparklers. I cut it off. My new number was only known to 3 people. My attorney, my property manager, and my foreman. Then the twist. Ethan's wife opened the package. She didn't leave silently, she detonated. She posted everything online. Screenshots, timelines, photos, annotations. She tagged Ethan, she tagged Chloe, she tagged our mutual friends. The community watched as the narrative unfurled in pixels. In less than a day, Chloe tried to control. I slapped a notification away and watched her post bloom across my phone, a plaintive plea for privacy during a challenging time. Cute cover story. Especially after half the county had already held up her explicit texts and bedroom selfies like dirty pennants. Chloe plastered that post from the rental on Highway 1, under Big Sur's coastal fog, and then Liam walked back into my life the next morning like he owned the yard at the shipwright slip. Coffee in hand. Late. Acting as if the keel of my life was his to steer. Gavin, the foreman who now held the controlling share, was already at the gate before Liam's truck rolled in. The scene went precise and surgical. Turn around, Gavin said. You're finished here. Liam blinked, groped for a title that no longer conferred anything. What the heck? What do you mean? He said. Security was already in position, Gavin replied. Liam pushed back. This is a mistake. I'm the operations director. Past tense, I thought. Gavin didn't soften it. Now you're trespassing. They walked him off the slip like a drunk at a ruined wedding. He tried to file a wrongful termination claim. My attorney shredded it in minutes. Misuse of company gear, policy violations, showing up intoxicated. Everything had been logged, recorded, archived, grain by grain, plank by plank. He was lucky we didn't press charges. Here's the bitter little twist. The man had been loudly airing his promotion for months, speaking like he had permanent moorings. He'd taken loans on an imagined future. He'd built a castle in the air. Now he had no birth, no marriage, and a ledger deep in red. Couldn't have scripted it better if I'd tried. Then came the theater with the kids. Because people love a melodrama. Call me cold. Call me cruel. I don't care. Ethan had to hustle for financial aid. Without my checks, that dream college got expensive fast. Community college became the pragmatic shore. Sophie clocked into a part-time job at 15, register mornings, homework at midnight. They tried everything. New accounts, fake emails, friends pushing messages through. My lawyer forwarded one handwritten letter. A long, emotional runabout about being stuck, about being sorry. He cast himself as the coxswain caught between two currents. Save it. You weren't collateral. You were an accomplice. You deleted surveillance footage. You knew precisely what you were doing. 3 weeks later, Chloe's legal team called, the usual gambit. I had abandoned the family and owed half of everything plus spousal support. My lawyer laughed. We had ironclad evidence, infidelity logs, screenshots stamped with date and GPS, a paper trail cleaner than a newly planed plank. The kids were old enough that custody wasn't a topic. Chloe got exactly what the statute required, no more. The house closed. Once the sum settled, she walked away with about $200,000. That sounds decent until you remember she'd spent the last 15 years out of the workforce. No diploma, few marketable skills, a reputation that's burned to ash. At her rate of spending, that pile evaporates faster than morning fog. The family reactions were telling. My parents tried to remain neutral at first. There are two sides, my mother said gently, until our counsel sent them the digital chest of evidence. Texts, images, audio. My father called, didn't ask how I was. I'm sorry I raised a man like that, he said. Then he added, flat and precise as a chisel. He's out of the will. Chloe's relatives staged the opposite performance. A public post painting her as the poor, abandoned wife. We answered with legal documents and cease and desists, attached with a few carefully chosen screenshots. One of their darling daughter getting cozy with her brother-in-law in what used to be our granddaughter's room. Funny how loud people get quiet when the truth presses its face up to the glass. Me? I'm thriving. The new shipyard venture is already outperforming forecasts. We signed 3 major commercial contracts for the coming year. Clean margins, solid timetables, and none of the domestic drama. I've been cleaning house in every sense. Down 20 pounds of fat, 10 more of lean muscle. I sleep deeper. I think clearer. Dating? Not seriously, though life has a way of introducing people when you're steady and on your feet. I bought a new truck and paid cash. I bought the motorcycle I'd always wanted. Chloe always said they were too dangerous. Funny, she didn't think what she did with Liam was dangerous. I started seeing a therapist, not because I'm broken but because I wanted to understand how I missed the faint creaks that turned into rot. She helped me name something I had buried. The betrayal wasn't only theirs. I betrayed myself by staying quiet, by oiling over small alarms, by pretending the hinge didn't squeak. Admitting that felt like the first honest repair. Word travels fast in the coastal trades. Chloe's renting a modest 2-bedroom cottage and working retail. Liam is couch surfing and can't hold a steady job. His ex moved the kids across state lines. Ethan works 2 jobs while juggling community college. Sophie's babysitting gigs haven't helped her grades. Do I feel guilty? Not at all. They made their beds every morning for 2 years. They looked me in the face and lied. They covered for what they knew was wrong. They assumed I'd never read the logs. They assumed I was weak. They were wrong. The emails my lawyer forwards are repetitive and hollow. I'm sorry. We didn't mean it. We need you. Please come home. Chloe even claimed she was on the edge. I always loved you, she said in a breath. Right, that's why she kept going for 2 years. Ethan's most recent line was a classic. I understand if you can't forgive me, but it's not fair to punish Mom and Sophie for my mistakes. Wrong, kid. I'm not punishing anyone. I stopped financing a lie. Big difference. The divorce wrapped 2 months ago. My attorney called it the most straightforward case he'd handled. Why? Because the evidence was bulletproof. No delays, no theatrics, just signatures and silence. Chloe walked away with the settlement and a small spousal package for 2 years as required. I retained the business, the investments, the retirement funds, my share of the work and the payoff. She filed one last desperate claim alleging emotional mistreatment. The judge glanced, rolled his eyes, and nearly warned her for wasting the court's time. Judges don't appreciate cheaters trying to paint themselves as victims. Gavin, the foreman who took the bulk ownership, is officially my business partner now. While I remain off the record, I still take 35% of the profits. Funny thing, revenue increased by 40% when my headspace stopped splitting between a collapsing household and the yard. Liam tried to set up a rival company. It didn't last a quarter. No clients would touch him. No suppliers would trust him. In our line of work, reputation is currency. And his was in the gutter. Sophie sent a 2-page letter on her 16th birthday. 2 full pages of apologies and a creased childhood photo. Touching, if you haven't already armored your heart. Ethan says he's doing better. Community college, a promotion at work, therapy. His girlfriend messaged me politely, said he speaks of me and regrets his actions. That's something. But my emotional door remains closed. Then, unexpectedly, Liam's former wife and I started trading messages. Initially, it was just swapping timelines, comparing the small telltales. It turned into a friendship. She's moving to Big Sur next month to begin again. Messy? Maybe. I'm not concerned about appearances anymore. She told me what had never come up. Chloe and Liam timed their moves until my company reached a certain valuation. They'd calculated the whole thing, a bigger settlement as the endgame. It wasn't a sudden fall. It was premeditated. The kids even knew. So much for, we didn't mean to hurt you. I bought a new home, a modest, clean 3-bedroom with 2 baths, a backyard pool, and a workshop that smells like my sanity. Varnish, machine oil, and metal shavings. Finally, I have a space to build and make without complaints about noise or clutter. I've taken a part-time teaching role at the local trade school. Passing on skills feels honest. It keeps me honest. A few students show promise. I'll be restarting operations soon on my terms. Physically, I'm the healthiest I've been. There's a brutal therapy in pounding a heavy bag and imagining faces from the past. I found a group of men at the gym. Men who speak plainly, who keep their word. I started dating again. She's in marketing, no kids, never married, self-sufficient. She doesn't want anything from me financially. She wants partnership and steadiness. Precisely what I lacked. People occasionally ask whether I regret how it all played out. Should I have sought counseling, patched things, kept the family together for the kids? My answer is clear. Absolutely not. This wasn't a one-time slip. It was a coordinated betrayal. My own household became a performance, and I was the comic at center stage. My children weren't collateral. They were participants. They knew the nights I spent in the shop, the hours I logged to build a life for them, and they tossed it aside. Some forgive. Some stay for appearances. Maybe those people are nobler, or maybe they're just afraid of being alone. Me? I chose self-respect. After 19 years, I finally chose to protect myself, and I don't feel bad about it. About 2 weeks ago, an old number rang. Chloe, or someone with access. Can I have 5 minutes? I need to say something, she begged. I almost hung up, but curiosity kept me on. You ruined everything, she said. The kids can't look at me. I can't get work. Liam won't talk to me anymore. I've lost it all. No, I said. You tossed it away. I just stopped cleaning up the mess. Her voice broke. I loved you. I just got lost for 2 years. Lost is a route, not an accident. I let the silence stretch, then answered the question I knew would come. Are you happy? Was breaking everything worth it? I didn't hesitate. I didn't break anything. You did when you chose him. I had only documented what was already fractured. I ended the call. Blocked the number. Starting over wasn't simple. Far from it. But it was necessary. I could have taken the high road, marriage therapy, a stranger mediating, a slow papering over of rotten beams. I could have lied to myself to maintain the illusion, to model weakness for my children, To let Liam keep his job after sleeping with my wife? Not a chance. I chose fire. I chose consequences. I wanted every person involved to know I'm not someone to cross. I made sure they felt it. Maybe someday my children will understand when their own foundations crack. Maybe they won't. Either way, I've moved on. And for anyone who says I'm boasting, you're right. I am. I went from being stabbed in the back to standing on new, sturdier planks. I rebuilt better than before. This isn't merely a tale of revenge. It's a clear-eyed, passionate love story turned tragic, an emotional romance braided into a seductive narrative about complex relationships and, perhaps someday, the possibility of heartfelt reconciliation. Beating heart, like, share and subscribe bell to Fruity Cheat Broken Heart channel sparkles.